The annual Winters family dinner was in full swing at my parents' mansion, where success was measured in corner offices and company titles. I sat quietly at the far end of the table, listening to my family brag about their roles in Winters Industries, the company my grandfather had built. "Another record quarter," my brother James announced, straightening his CFO nameplate on his suit. Though some of us actually had to show up to the office to make it happen. The dig was aimed at me, of course. The daughter who couldn't handle corporate life and worked from home. The disappointment who'd walked away from her VP position 3 years ago. "Emily, dear," my mother's voice dripped with fake concern. "Still doing that? What do you call it? Remote consulting?" "Something like that," I replied softly, checking my phone under the table. Another message from my team. "Final paperwork ready for signing. Operation Winter Storm is go." "You know," my father added, swirling his expensive scotch, "there's still a position waiting for you at Winters if you ever decide to rejoin the real business world. Even in HR or marketing." My sister-in-law Charlotte snickered. "Though you'd have to actually come to the office. And dress properly." She gestured at my simple black sweater and slacks, so different from her designer outfit. If they only knew I was wearing the same outfit I'd worn while negotiating the secret purchase of their company's controlling shares. "I'm comfortable working from home," I said mildly. "It suits my style." "Style?" James laughed. "Running some little online business is hardly style, sis. While you're playing entrepreneur, we're running a billion-dollar company." I bit back a smile, thinking of the documents waiting for my signature. Documents that would make me the owner of that billion-dollar company. "How much do remote consultants make these days?" Charlotte asked with exaggerated curiosity. "Enough to afford a real office?" "I manage," I replied, thinking of my penthouse office overlooking the city, the one they'd never seen because they'd never bothered to ask what I actually did. My phone buzzed again. "Stock purchase complete. Ready for final phase." "Well," my father raised his glass, "here's to Winters Industries, a real company run by real executives who understand the value of tradition and proper business practices. The same traditions that had made the company vulnerable to a silent takeover. The same practices that had left gaps in their security wide enough for a patient investor to slip through." "Speaking of the company," James started, "we should discuss the upcoming board meeting. The one Emily never attends. Because she's not a real executive anymore," Charlotte finished with a smirk. "Just a, what did you call it? Remote worker." My phone lit up with an urgent message. "Ms. Winters, the transfer is complete. You now own 51% of Winters Industries. Congratulations." I took a sip of water, hiding my smile. 3 years of careful planning, of letting them think I'd failed in corporate life, of building my empire in secret while they mocked my choices. "Actually," I said quietly, "I think I'll attend this board meeting." The table went silent. My father's scotch glass froze halfway to his lips. "You," James sputtered. "But you're not even in the company anymore." "About that." I pulled out my tablet, pulling up the documents that had just been finalized. "I think you'll find things have changed." "What do you mean?" my father demanded. "Maybe we should discuss the fact that Shadow Peak Ventures just acquired a controlling interest in Winters Industries," I said calmly. "Or should I say my company just acquired a controlling interest?" The silence that followed was absolutely perfect. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving them wrong, it's buying the empire they thought you couldn't handle. And I was just getting started. The chaos that erupted at the dinner table was spectacular. James knocked over his wine glass, Charlotte's perfectly maintained facade cracked, and my father's face turned an interesting shade of purple. "What do you mean your company?" he demanded, his voice shaking. "Shadow Peak Ventures is a multi-billion-dollar investment firm." "Yes," I agreed calmly. "The one I built while you all thought I was playing entrepreneur from home." My mother grabbed her pearls, a nervous habit from her socialite days. But that's impossible. You've been doing nothing for 3 years." "Actually," I pulled up more documents on my tablet. "I've been quite busy. Building an investment empire, acquiring undervalued companies, and watching Winters Industries make exactly the mistakes I knew you'd make." James stood up so quickly his chair toppled backward. "This is a joke. Has to be. Shadow Peak is run by E.W. Stone." "High professional name," I smiled. Did none of you ever wonder what these stood for? Emily Winters Stone. I took Mom's maiden name for business. Didn't want any family connections clouding my success. My phone buzzed again. Legal team ready to proceed with management changes. Charlotte's designer heel tapped nervously against the marble floor. But you work from home. In sweatpants. You missed the last 3 charity galas. Because I was in Tokyo closing a $1 billion deal, I replied. Amazing how much work you can get done when you're not worried about being seen at the right social events. Daddy, James turned to our father desperately, do something. She can't just take over. My father was staring at his phone, no doubt seeing the flood of urgent messages from the board. It's legal, he whispered. She really did it. She bought us out right under our noses. While you were all laughing about my little online business, I added, I was building something bigger than Winters Industries could ever be. Shadow Peak Ventures owns companies across 3 continents. Winters is just the latest acquisition. But why? My mother asked, her voice small. Why didn't you tell us? I leaned back, remembering all the family dinners where they'd belittled my choices, all the snide remarks about working from home, all the times they'd dismissed my success because it didn't fit their corporate mold. Because, Mom, you never asked. You were all too busy assuming I'd failed to notice I was succeeding. Too focused on corner offices and designer suits to see that real power doesn't need to show off. My phone lit up with another message. Board members requesting emergency meeting. Rumors of management changes causing panic. Now, I stood up, smoothing my simple black sweater. I have a company to run. Several, actually. The board meeting tomorrow should be interesting. You can't just walk in and take over. James protested. I'm the CFO. For now, I replied softly. Though you might want to review your performance records. Shadow Peak has a strict policy about merit-based positions. No more promotions just because of your last name. Charlotte's face crumpled. But the company parties, the social events, our positions, will all be evaluated based on actual business value, I finished. Amazing how much money you save when you cut out unnecessary executive perks. My father finally found his voice again. Emily, please. We can discuss this as family. Family. I raised an eyebrow. Like how you discuss my career choices. Or how about when you told the board I couldn't handle corporate life? We were trying to help, my mother protested. No, I corrected her gently. You were trying to control. To force success to look the way you wanted it to look. Well, guess what? Success doesn't need designer labels or corner offices. Sometimes it works from home in sweatpants, building an empire while you're not watching. I gathered my things, preparing to leave the dinner party I'd just demolished. Oh, and James? About those record quarters you were bragging about. Wait until you see what happens when someone who actually understands modern business takes over. The silence that followed me out was sweeter than any dessert they could have served. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving them wrong. It's buying the company they thought you couldn't handle and running it better than they ever could. And I was going to enjoy every minute of it, working from home in my sweatpants, of course. The next morning, I walked into Winters Industries headquarters for the first time in 3 years. The security guard did a double take. They were used to the failed daughter skulking past in shame during mandatory family events, not striding in with purpose. Ms. Winters, he stammered. You're not on the approved list. Check again, I smiled, handing him my new ID. Under CO. The elevator ride to the executive floor was filled with whispers. Word had spread fast about Shadow Peak's takeover, but few had connected it to the daughter who couldn't handle corporate life. I stepped into the boardroom exactly 3 minutes before the emergency meeting. James was already there, furiously whispering with his allies. Charlotte was stressed, scrolling through her phone, probably checking her stock options. My father sat at the head of the table, his chair for the past 30 years. Good morning, I said quietly. The room fell silent. Board members who dismissed me for years suddenly couldn't look away. You can't sit there, James blurted as I approached our father's chair. That's the CEO's seat. Exactly. I placed my laptop on the table. Dad, I believe that's my chair now. The look on his face as he stood up, as if his whole world was shifting, almost made the past 3 years of underestimation worth it. Now, I opened my laptop. let's discuss the changes Shadow Peak will be implementing. Changes. Charlotte's voice cracked. What changes? I pulled up the first slide of my presentation, Winter's Industries Restructuring Plan. First, I began, we'll be conducting a complete audit of all executive positions. Performance reviews, contribution assessments, merit evaluations. No exceptions. James's face paled. But we're family. Funny how that word only matters when you're afraid of losing something, I noted. Was I family when you told the board I was emotionally unsuited for executive work? My phone buzzed, another message from Shadow Peak. Additional acquisitions ready for review soon. Second, I continued, all executive perks will be immediately suspended pending review. That includes the private jets, the business development, spa retreats, and yes, Charlotte, the monthly shopping allowance. She actually gasped. Third, we'll be implementing a modern work structure, including, I paused for effect, remote work options for all qualified employees. But that's not how business is done, my father protested. No, I corrected, that's not how you did business. While you were all clinging to outdated traditions, I built a global company without ever needing a corner office. Turns out success doesn't require a designer suit and a mahogany desk. I pulled up the next slide, Shadow Peak's portfolio. The room went quiet as the numbers appeared. That's billions, one board member whispered. All built from my home office, I confirmed. The one you all mocked. Amazing what you can accomplish when you're focused on results instead of appearances. My father slumped in his new non-CEO chair. Why didn't you tell us? All this time. Would you have listened? I asked quietly. Or would you have tried to force me to do it your way? Sometimes the best path to success is letting people underestimate you until it's too late. My phone lit up again. Global partners notified of management change. Stock up 30%. Now, I stood up, smoothing my simple black sweater. I have an empire to run. Those who want to be part of Winter's Industries' future can adapt to our new merit-based culture. Those who don't. I glanced at James and Charlotte. Will find their severance packages generous. As I walked out of the boardroom, my boardroom now, I couldn't help but add one final touch. Oh, and James, the coffee machine in the break room needs refilling, since you might need to learn some new skills. The look on his face was priceless. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just taking over the family empire. It's showing them that success doesn't need their approval to change the world. And I did it all from my home office in comfortable clothes, building something bigger than their traditions could ever imagine. Because sometimes, the biggest power move is letting them think you failed until you own their definition of success.